This is God's Family Plan number 19 of 24. Are arranged marriages and the bride price good? Hello everybody, welcome. I'm Jim McOtter. In the Bible, and through the centuries until early 20th century, and then mostly only in Western nations, a young daughter could not legally get married without a father's authorization. This is still law in some states. Parents were responsible in finding or helping find and directing who their sons or daughters would marry. When and who a son or daughter married was considered the last and most important responsibility for any parent. Any parents being irresponsible in this area were previously considered derelict and disgraceful. Did you know that still today the vast majority of marriages in the world are arranged marriages by parents? Research shows that arranged marriages consistently last longer with fewer divorces than so-called love or choice-based marriages. Divorce rates are as low as 4% for arranged marriages compared to 40 to 50% in Western nations today. The biblical marriage model. I don't have room here to reference all the scriptures regarding parents' responsibility for their sons and daughters' marriages. But parents were responsible to find, or at least help find, and approve who their son or daughter would marry. However, if a son or daughter met someone who they had an interest in marrying, they would not pursue them independently, but rather let their parents know. The parents would get involved, initiate getting with his or her parents, and be involved with any gatherings with their son or daughter and the other person. The Western, quote, dating, quote, process was never done or considered or even thought to be morally appropriate. My own father courted my mother prior to World War II. He asked permission of my mother's father if he could take his daughter out one night to get an ice cream. Her father gave permission. My father picked Mom up, and she sat in the front seat with him, and Mom's father and mother sat in the back seat. Being chaperoned at that time was common. It works. They got married and lived happily ever after for over 50 years. Biblically, though sons and daughters were under the direction of who and when they could marry, a father would never force any marriage. However, the father did have veto authority to not permit a marriage that he deemed not good for his daughter, even in the event of consensual fornication. Exodus 22:16 through 17 says, and I quote, "If a man seduces a virgin who is not engaged to anyone and has sex with her, he must pay the customary bride price and marry her. But if her father refuses to let him marry her, the man must still pay him an amount equal to the bride price of a virgin." End quote. This verse also referenced the customary bride price. Did you know that today 75% of the nations in the world have marriage payments? Many refer to this as a dowry, though bride price is the more biblical meaning. Though most marriages in the world are with marriage payments, I don't know any that follow the biblical model. Nations and cultures today that have arranged marriages and a dowry system are unbiblical, often grotesque, and for ungodly purposes. Number one, they may arrange marriages for the bride and groom with neither even knowing the other person, much less if they have any desire for the other person. Number two, they arrange child marriages. Number three, the groom's father negotiates the best deal he can get in determining what family he will let their daughter marry his son. But here is the biblical model for the bride price, and maybe some good reasons for it. Number one, a father of the bride. To begin with, the biblical bride price was compensation to the father of the bride from the groom, and not the other way around. Proposal and initiation should come from the man. Number two, true love. There is the saying, quote, "There ain't no free lunch," end quote. When there's no cost for something, it's valued as worth nothing. Many guys get whatever they want from a girl with no cost, and sometimes even with a marriage license, for the girl to only find out later they were valued by the guy as worth nothing. But the most important and most valuable thing in all of life that a man will ever receive is his bride. Yet for a bride, we say it should cost the man nothing, but not so according to God's marriage model. There is also another saying, easy come, easy go. With modern marriages, easy come has resulted in easy go for many. In fact, in today's no-fault divorce law, they have made it very easy to go. Nikolai Kanylyuki was the chief architect of the Soviet law of marriage in the 1920s and 1930s. He described the purpose of divorce without restraint as a step toward the ultimate goal of the abolition of marriage, thereby establishing the socialist transformation of a society. If there ain't no free lunch in life, certainly a bride should never be considered worth nothing to any groom, and certainly not to her father. If a groom will not consider his bride of great value to marry her, he will never consider her of great value after he marries her. How can a father and daughter really know for sure how much a groom actually values his daughter prior to marriage? Words and talk are cheap. Realize every charlatan is a great talker. The Bible says in 1 John 3:18, let us not love in word and talk, but in deed and in truth. End quote. Without love being in deed, there is sure no love in truth. Romantic talk and physical affection prior to marriage may not be love, but rather lust. Lust is selfish and self-serving. Love is selfless and self-sacrificial. Lust is impatient. Love is patient. 1 Corinthians 13:4. A bride price exposes the difference between selfish lust versus sacrificial love. A bride price reveals this prior to marriage. This is not something a father or daughter should want to guess at and find out after marriage. Number 3, continuous love. The bride price helps establish in the mind of the groom what he must carry into his marriage, to always value and treat his bride with honor and respect. 1 Peter 3:7. If a groom is unwilling to sacrifice anything to get his bride, he's less likely to sacrifice anything for her after he has her. Therefore, a wise father and a discerning daughter will rejoice if they discover before marriage that such a man had little or no real love, but only a lot of talk or physical lust for only what he could get for free. I knew a wealthy Christian father before he learned about the bride price, who now knows the wisdom of it. The father and mother spent their life raising and training a most amazing daughter, paying for her higher education, raising her in a great Christian environment. She was a beautiful woman, highly cultivated and very competent in whatever she did. In short, the groom got an unbelievable bride. But the groom sacrificed absolutely nothing to get her, not unlike most grooms. Actually, the bride's father paid for the potential groom to be with the family on exotic vacations. Also, instead of the groom paying the father any bride price, the father gave the groom a considerable amount of money, even to buy a home for their new marriage. The groom never gave up anything for the bride. It was a one-way street of only the groom getting everything, including the beautiful bride, and with no sacrificial love on his part. What a deal that groom got. However, the groom did seem very loving and honoring of the parents and his wonderful new bride after their marriage for a period of time. But when they started having children, for the first time he had to show sacrificial love for his children and wife. A different person began to be revealed. This fella had been so romantic, so loving, and seemed so good in every way at the beginning. But the wife and children's sacrifice was too much for this wonderful so-called fella. One day, he up and left to everyone's shock and amazement. This is a heartbreaking story for any father and mother, and certainly their daughter and the children. How many marriage tragedies would a bride price have saved? The father and mother of this daughter have since learned about the biblical bride price, and they need no convincing of God's wisdom for it. We weep for this daughter and her children, and so many more like them, whose fathers are ignorant or indifferent to the wisdom of a bride price in helping protect their daughters. Number 4, financial stability. With the biblical bride price, the father has real evidence that the groom has financial discipline, stability, and ability to be able to make money and provide financially for his daughter. The groom evidences discipline to be able to save money and at least enough for a bride price. Finances are a major revealer of character. Jesus talked more about finances and money than he did about heaven or hell combined. If a groom does not have sufficient character to make money and be disciplined with money, he will not be a good mate. Finances are one of the major causes of divorce today. Number 5, security net. The bride price is also a type of a financial security net for the daughter if her husband prematurely dies or if her husband leaves her with young children. She would then go back and live in her father's home, especially if her children were still young and unable to care for her. Her father, who received the bride price, having invested it wisely, could then be in better financial position to help his daughter and grandchildren for such a possible situation. So the bride price was also a type of financial security for the daughter. Number 6, parents' compensation. The parents sacrificed their money and years of their lives to raise up their daughter to adulthood, to then give her away to some other man, to take on his name for the rest of her adult life, to be his, quote, helper, end quote, as Genesis says. She helps build up her new husband's name and dynasty, including giving him children to further expand his dynasty, whereas the daughter's parents receive nothing for all they sacrificed unless they receive a bride price. Financially, this bride price is for sure the best financial deal this man will ever make his entire life. It's only appropriate the groom show some appreciation via bride price for all the life work the parents did in raising their daughter, only to then just turn her over to him, to this man, for the rest of his life. Biblically, sons retain their father's name because they would continue to remain with their father in helping their father build his and their family dynasty. Number 7, boys versus men. If biblical bride price were law or even the assumed custom and culture in any nation, it would have the effect making boys into men in a nation. It would impact any nation to be stronger morally and financially. Think about it. If all boys knew they were going to have to give a bride price to marry, not as many would spend their teen years or even into their 20s playing video games or hanging out in the streets or wasting years with any fun and games. Not as many would lose a decade or more before they started getting down to business and becoming productive in their lives. Love for a girl and requiring a bride price to marry her would be very life-changing and motivating for all young guys to plan ahead, to grow up, and to go to work. This would actually make cities safer. All youth would be far more motivated to learn, work, and become productive early in life as they were in the past and those following the biblical marriage model. Roman Jewish historian Flavius Josephus wrote, most Jewish sons and daughters were married in their teens. They were mature and were beginning to build their family futures. Number 8, fifth commandment. Paying a bride price is another way of honoring God's fifth commandment. It says that even the father of the bride must be honored. It says that the father cannot be ignored if a man wants to get married. It further protects the bride's future. When the groom honors the bride's father, the groom's honor for the bride will always be greater. Number 9, Christ's redemption. Finally, this may be one of the most important and most glorious reasons for a groom to pay a bride price. Ephesians 5:32 says, quote, marriage is a great mystery, but it is an illustration of the way Christ and the church are one. End quote. The groom's bride price is the picture of Christ paying to have us for his bride. 1 Corinthians 6:20 and Revelation 5:9 and 21:9 say, and I quote, for God bought you with a high price. For Jesus was slain and you were purchased for God with his own blood. Come, I will show you the bride, the wife of the Lamb.